I'm going a little old school today. Welcome to NFL World, where NFL starts and ends. I'm your host, Jacob. And some breaking news as Stefon Diggs was traded, but not, or traded to a Texas team, but not the one that his brother plays for. He was traded to the Houston Texans. Now, this was a combined total of like 2 trades. Rap Sheet, when talking about this, said it's like 2 trades that were made, describing as the Texans gave up pick 23, a 2025 second, and pick 232 in the 20. So he gives up pick 23 and pick 232 in the 2024 draft and a 2025 second rounder. Then the Texans got the 42nd pick in this year's draft, Stefon Diggs, and his 2020 or his salary, which was $19 million, the number 188 overall pick and 189, and a fifth round pick in 2025. Now, describe how this all happened. Probably the first deal suggested we want a pick in 2025. So they probably did the Diggs deal first. So probably the deal was the 42nd pick for the 23rd and the 2025 second. And that gave the Texans the 42nd pick, Diggs, and maybe 189. And then and 188. But then they wanted a fifth, so they traded the seventh pick this year, seventh round pick this year for a fifth round pick next year. That is probably what happened. Stefon Diggs is one of those players who, if he doesn't want to be in an area, he finds a way to get out. That's who he is. It's how he's always operated. In fact, I'm gonna create a poll question here. Grading Stefon. So basically grading the Stefon Diggs trade. To me, this is it's hard to judge what Stefon Diggs is gonna do a lot of times, mainly because a lot of people are gonna go and ask questions about, well, why wasn't other teams involved? Why no one else wanted to talk to Stefon Diggs or try and trade for Stefon Diggs? And the issue is the money. The money is the issue. People forget that money is an issue. The Texans want to make moves to make their young quarterback look good, and rightfully so. Dallas is not in the business of that, but it's not about the Cowboys. The media wants to make it about the Cowboys, but it's not. And it wasn't the fact of the key thing that made this interesting was the deal. It was not a viable trade, I think, for the Bills. They took a lot of dead cap hit this year and next year. We talk about how there's some other guys who are potentially coming down the road in a year or so that their cap hit is going to be huge. Stefon Diggs' cap hit is huge for the next 2, 3 years. It's huge. It's not helpful at all. In fact, that's why I was shocked that the Bills did it because of the cap hit. The cap hit for the next year and change is remarkably high. It's remarkable. It's remarkably high in terms of they cap hit, I think is 30 million this year and I think it's 28 next year. I don't have the numbers right on hand. Let me look at the cap hit for Stefon Diggs. Okay. So his cap hit this year was a total of 27 million. $27.85 million. That's a lot for a guy not to play for your team. And then let's go and try to find it in 25 if we can find it. So it looks like as I'm reading this, it's about 18. So splitting that apart, you're paying a guy about $18 million not to be on your team. That's the issue. That's what people don't understand. It's not the cap hit. Oh, it is the cap hit. But it's not just trading away that player. Now you have to divide the cap hit. So they're going to take about 10 million of that, more likely, because of how the trade worked. They're going to take about 10 or 12 million dollars for someone that's not on their team. That's the difficult part. And of course, the media wants to say, "Oh well, no other team wanted to do that because like Dallas would have done it if they were all in." They weren't gonna do it. I mean, yes, it was might have been easy for the Cowboys to do it, but the Bills were not gonna let it happen. Now, and that's the reason I'm looking at the Bills. I'm like, really, you made that deal? You took a really big cap hit the next 2 years for what? You got rid of Gabe Davis. Now you're getting rid of Stefon Diggs, excuse me. Those are not viable trades or viable releases. This is the same thing the Chargers did. They trade away Keenan Allen thinking they can keep Mike Williams, and Mike Williams goes and signs with the Jets. So now you're out two wide receivers. That's what the Bills are. Out two wide receivers. They have Shakir, who's a good player. They have Kincaid and Knox, the tight end group, but that's not wide receiver help. That's the issue with this trade. You made a trade like this. Now, you can say his numbers have begun to decline. He's 31, going to be 32 next year. Like, you can say that. But at the same time, his team and his unit, there's not much left. There isn't much left. And if you were really that confident you could go and compete with the Chiefs, you can't do it now. You can't. You're not good enough. And this, unless you say we're drafting two wide receivers, that's the only thing that makes sense. So if the only player that I can see that might be, they might, I'm going to do it. No, oh, I can't do another poll question, but if I could, I would. The poll question I would do would be who what position should the Bills draft, wide receiver or any other position? Because that's a real loss to lose both wide receivers. Now I understand, like I said, Diggs had a down year. but it was probably his production probably would have gone back up when Gabe Davis was gone. Now he's in Houston, which his production will still go up because he has a great young quarterback in C.J. Stroud. But it makes it so much harder on the Bills now. Are the Bills in full rebuild, reload, retool, whatever term they want to use, or are they just, nah, we're gonna still be good, even though we're not. One final note before we get out of here. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, former Chief, signs back with the Chiefs 1-year deal after the Chiefs had met with J.K. Dobbins, chose not to go that way, and bring back Edwards-Helaire. He was, as it was tweeted out, he was still a starter last year, or the year before, I should say, but then lost the role to Isaiah Pacheco. Edwards-Helaire has not been a great back for them. At times, he's been decent. He's hard to tackle. He's low to the ground, but not exactly the best. Yeah, but market was not that great. Can sign him back cheaply on a 1-year deal. That's what the Chiefs decided to do. For NFL World, I'm Jacob Hebert, giving out all the breaking news in the NFL.